All right, 3, 2, 1. Let's rock. Welcome back, Gym Life Podcast, Fit, Jacked, and Stacked. I'm your host, Joe Janiga. Thank you for joining me out there again, you guys who have been with me since the beginning, and those of you who are new to the show, appreciate your support. This is the Garage Podcast, an idea to do a podcast a year and a half ago, has spawned into a bit more than that. As many of you know, I've been hard at work podcasting now for better than a year and a half. And I do a lot of work within the lifting community in respect to live streaming and doing some other projects that lend to our entire lifting community. But one of my favorite things to do, of course, is to get on here and do a show for you guys that kind of just gives a little bit of a breakdown every week of what's going on out there that may entertain you to some degree. Some cool stuff with people, places, and things, organizations, events, stuff of that nature. Not only from my region, of course, which is the Great Lakes region, but nationally, and then, of course, internationally, going across the pond and over to Australia and all these other places that are bringing us a lot of great content to share with you guys that are all a part of our gym life and our lifting community out there. So thanks for joining me. I appreciate the support. We are a growing contingency of gym lifers out there, and I love it. I love it. Obviously, this show is getting bigger and bigger every week. As I do it solo, and as many of you know, I used to do it with my one of my podcasting partners, Robbie Millar, and Robbie has, of course, moved on to other things, and we still talk all the time. And he's a big supporter of the show as well. And I bounce ideas off of him, but he's got his own path he's on. And instead of bringing in a new co-host, I decided just to run with this stuff solo. Certainly, many of you know I have no problem rambling on about shit out there. So, I'll try to give it to you the best I can. So thanks for joining me today. So what's happening in the world of lifting as we know it, our gym lives, right? And as I try to break down these shows sometimes, I segment it a bit. Powerlifting, strongman, bodybuilding, Highland Games, maybe some CrossFit. If I ever talk about CrossFit, I don't know if I have. I'm just not versed well enough in it, guys. I need to get some CrossFit people on this show is what it is. I used to be a CrossFit hater. I'm not going to lie. I thought it was the goofiest thing in the world. Then I fell in love with Danny Spiegel. The rest is history. Some amazing athletes at the highest level in CrossFit. Certainly some gorgeous people, but the athletic abilities of these CrossFitters just blows my mind. And I'm slowly wrapping my mind around that sport, kind of how it works from a training perspective. And I don't think it's hard to figure out, right? Although I am getting a little bit more acquainted with sort of regionally and how the natural progression through the sport works. So the stuff that we see on TV, like through the Rogue Invitational in particular, which is one of the bigger ones out there, or the CrossFit Games, right? How these people get to that level, where do they compete to get there? And then, obviously, the path that they're on to compete at that higher level has always eluded me, but I'm getting and figuring that out more and more. But I think the key to all that is to bring a CrossFitter, a high-level CrossFitter on the show to share some of this stuff with us, because I'm interested for sure. Listen, a lot of what CrossFit provides, and not only for their top end athletes, but for everybody that does that sport, is it's kind of a launching point for other sports or other people within CrossFit to compete within other sports, particularly powerlifting and strongman. Strongman being the closest cousin, of course. And then powerlifting is not too far away from that. As we know, a lot of those type of training modalities cross over to all those sports. And then certainly these people are in well enough condition, if they ever wanted to pack on 20, 30 pounds of muscle, they'd quickly be competing in the bodybuilding community. So that's why I love CrossFit. It's this sort of hub, this platform that provides a lot of athletic opportunity and chances for crossover athletes to come into all of our sports. I just need to be more acquainted with it. I need to, like I said, get on maybe a big CrossFit personality, get them on the show, and we'll have a great conversation and we'll fill in all the blanks. But needless to say, I got some work to do in that department. Now we deal with a little bit more strongman, bodybuilding, and powerlifting, because that, of course, is my wheelhouse. So all three of those in no particular order. I think I'm pretty versed in most of them, or at least versed enough, and I'll fill in the blanks and bullshit through the rest of it, I guess. But USPA, let's talk about that one more time. Does the USPA ever go away? Are they ever going to go away? Yes, they are. To answer your question, they are. They're just wanting to make a more dramatic, I guess, exit at this point than any of us thought was ever possible, could an organization that completely fuck themselves, could they fuck themselves any more than the USPA has done right now? On a grandiose level. I mean, seriously, the gift that keeps on giving. Thank you, Steve Dennison and the USPA. You are the most entertaining part about the lifting community. And this year is we're only a month into the year, for God's sake. We're already being entertained with this nonsense. As many of you know out there, or for those of you who don't, USPA hit the scandal stage with some of inappropriate behavior from their judging and from their higher up officials within the USPA organization. Then it became sort of a cover-up that was exposed that Steve Dennison, the president of this company organization, wasn't doing the proper things and taking care of some of these issues that were being, reported on, or at least being mentioned to by his athletes and other people within his organization. Pretended to take care of these things, didn't take care of these things. Lo and behold, right? It festers into something crazy, or even worse, which is now we're finding out that sex offenders work within the organization, and many of these people who were doing, nefarious acts and sexual harassment and those type of things were working within this organization and continue to work in this organization. And none of these things were taken care of. They were essentially brushed underneath the rug. Okay, well, there's problem number one, right? Okay, we have an issue. This organization, not unlike many other organizations out there. Listen, we've seen this story unfold before, haven't we, guys? We've seen it in all different areas of life, whether it's sports or business or, in the public or in the politics that we live in. This story is unfolded many, many times before. Here's the difference in the USPA and everybody else, because apparently this guy had his own way of doing things. God bless you. Entertaining as all get up. Thank you very much. He decided that instead of actually just coming out like most people would expect an organization to do, make a formal apology about what has taken place, get rid of the individuals that are, up as the bigger part of this problem, or all of them, big or small. Let everybody know out there that you've taken care of that. These people are no longer with your organization. Then you reach out to the rest of your organization, letting them know that you're changing the way you're doing things. You're putting in a system in place that'll prevent this from happening again. You make that announcement to the public, and everybody forgives you. It all goes away, right? That's a real easy way to take care of a problem like that. Listen, we're all willing to forgive you once. And that's really kind of where we were at with the USPA a few weeks back. That's all they had to fucking do. How hard is this? You don't need to hire a PR firm for this. Everybody does it. Even individuals do it when they make a mistake. They tell people they're going to take care of it. They'll never do it again. They're going to take the appropriate steps to make sure that they remove that sort of thing from their lives. They ask for forgiveness and they move on and they start doing the right thing, and people forgive them. And then people forget about it. The incident then becomes a part of ancient history. Moving forward, everything is right in the world, or at least in that particular part of it. Nope, not the USPA. Why would they? That's simple. No, instead, this guy, Steve Dennison, he decides he's going to deny it and brush it underneath the rug to begin with. And, pretend it never happened, or pretend he was taking care of it, but really wasn't. And then it becomes unfolded, of course. And we realize that these things didn't happen, and all the things that he was supposed to say, he wasn't saying. And then God bless Goobs _ YouTube, by the way, who's on Instagram. And Goobs, I got to get your real name because I keep forgetting when I get on there. But this guy's just been awesome for the powerlifting community. And he listen, if you haven't been on Goobs _ YouTube, you got to get on there. It'd be the best thing you guys ever did. You want to get some, besides this USPA thing, which he has just single-handedly shed the light on all the nefariousness of this incident that's taken place. Not only that, he's got some other great content on there that just sheds, kind of shines the light on all these pretenders out there within the fitness and bodybuilding community that, do stupid shit, and they're editing their photos and just all kinds of fun stuff too. That adds a lot of levity to this industry, this crazy industry that we're in, and also kind of makes us all go, "Ha ha! I knew it. You got caught." Well, listen, this guy's like a detective. I don't even know if he's a detective. He wouldn't even say that. Listen, he's been given a lot of good information about the USPA, and what's been shared with him is documents, voice recordings, emails, I mean, this is undisputable evidence of all these things that are taking place. Not only that, he's exposed the cover-up aspect of it through the USPA, through recordings, emails, and of course letters and these type of things as well. So USPA was caught dead to rights. There was no other move for them than what I previously just stated, was to make the formal apology, get rid of the people involved, make some wholesale changes within the organization, and beg for forgiveness. That's all they had to do. No. Instead, more recent news, they decide that they're going to deny it all from the beginning, pretend it never happened. Try to use the Jedi mind trick, right? These are not the droids you're looking for. I mean, literally trying to just hope that nobody's going to remember the last 2 weeks of reporting and just forget this ever took place, deny it all, and then go on. Are you fucking kidding me? Not only was there almost no hope to begin with that this organization could resurrect itself, but this guy's boneheaded move just ultimately just pushed the button on it all and said, it's over. It's destroyed. There is no coming back for the USPA now. Not that I ever thought there was, honestly. I never thought for a minute they were going to recover from this. Matter of fact, I wasn't rooting for him at all. I think it was despicable from the beginning. And I saw a lot of that. And if you read between the lines on a lot of this stuff, on what was taking place and how they were sort of representing themselves, you already knew there was not good people in place to run this organization, and it had to go away. Of course, it didn't happen. Next thing you know, they're in this state of, okay, all this proof's out, undeniable evidence. Then they just need to admit it. Now, instead of that, they're just going to deny it again all of a sudden. Just a total shit show, guys. And they get everything they deserve. Supposedly, they hired a PR firm, which they came out and said, oh, by the way, we hired a PR firm, which, and to shout out to you, Goobs, you're the one that made this point in the beginning. When you hire a PR firm, you don't tell people you hired a PR firm, for God's sake. You just let them do their job. And, you know, they systematically try to take care of some of these issues for you one by one. No, instead, you come out and tell everybody you hired a PR firm to take care of the whitewashing of this incident for you. And I can tell you right now, if in fact he did hire a PR firm, which I don't think he did, I don't think anybody's buying it, because of his actions, no PR firm on this planet, whether or not they're ignorant or other, would have this guy doing his own talking for him still. First thing I would say is, shut the fuck up. We got it from here. Please stay out of our way. But no, that didn't happen. So this guy kept, of course, repeating that this stuff never happened and that his name was being slandered. His organization's name was being slandered. And nobody should believe what they're hearing, reading, seeing out there, albeit their emails, voice recordings, and things that aren't going to be like duped. And just believe everything he's saying, because why wouldn't you? Yeah. This story's over. I'm guessing it's not. I'm sure that this idiot's going to come out and say something else that's just going to go, oh my God, I didn't think it could get any worse, and it just got worse. The difference is it's not going to do anything to save this organization now. They have zero opportunity, and I'm glad to see it. It's time for them to move on. So they doubled down on idiocracy, and that generally isn't the right thing to do, as we all know, even at the elementary level. There was a real simple way to handle this incident, and they didn't do it. They didn't do it. So lesson to be learned for anybody out there that ever makes a mistake. Make the appropriate steps, make the appropriate changes, make the appropriate apologies, and just say you'll never do it again. I'm generally confident that people will forgive you and move on. Unless it's just some egregious bullshit that none of us could ever be forgiven for, like pedophilia or some bullshit like that. Which, nope, I got nothing in my heart for you, even after an apology. So, anyhow, I didn't mean to get off on that tangent, but that's one thing that comes to mind that I wouldn't forgive you for. And that kind of was what happened here. Not to this guy in particular, he wasn't a part of that, but to hire those kind of people and let them be a part of your organization with no background checks, that kind of says a lot about you as an individual as well. Like, you put little thought into that, which is a shame, because we should all be thinking about that when we hire people that are put in positions to, not only be around young athletes, but be around, women and whoever for that matter. If you've got a background or some, of these nefarious things that you've done in your life that you've been caught for, shouldn't be representing any organization on any level. So this isn't brain surgery, guys. This is just ridiculous. And it's idiocracy. It doesn't get any more stupid than the USPA and the people that ran that organization. So moving on. Yeah, I'm sure not. Next week we'll talk about it too, but that's the latest on the USPA denial. The old Jedi mind trick they tried to play on everybody. It didn't work. So I don't know if you guys saw this or not. I got a couple good questions for my listeners out there too, which I appreciate, guys. The questions I love, although I'm maybe not qualified to answer all of them for you. Well, I guess I'm qualified. There's smarter people than me, but I'll give you my take on it as always. Big what's this, what I got this this is a good one. Big shout out to the scientific community. We love the scientific community out there, guys, because they're always giving us these great studies, right? These results from these studies that, boy, like the more recent one that came out about, I don't know, 6 months ago, that it actually makes sense to work out when you get older so you can maintain muscle mass for health and longevity. Oh, fucking brain surgery. Thank you, scientific community, for that one. Boy, we wouldn't know what to do without you. Nope. But that was only the beginning, because now they came out with another study recently. I don't know if you know this or not. A bigger midsection. Let's say the power belly, or the let's not say power belly. That's not good. Sorry, I'll swear. Not power belly. How about just saying a little tubbier, right? A little beer gut around the waist. By the way, guys, if you didn't know this, that's not healthy. They just came back with a study about that, saying that those people generally run into more health issues and issues with mortality. Holy fuck. Thank you, scientific community. You guys bring so much to light within the health and fitness community that we wouldn't know what to do without you. I mean, seriously, thank you guys. Thank you so much. And I don't know if you knew this or not, but you know what else the scientific community is? This health and wellness, that I don't even want to call them scientific community. I mean, I get it. There's more to science than just health and wellness, but that particular part of it, now they're saying with obese children, guys, you know what their conclusion is? There's no how do I want to say this? It's never soon enough to start with medications and surgery. Think about that. They're essentially saying that with obese kids, the solution to the problem isn't what you think it is. It's going to be medication and surgery. To no surprise there. Thank you again, scientific community. We know who lined your pockets. Thank you. You've already made that perfectly clear to us, that actual health and wellness, good information sharing is not a part of your agenda. The only thing that a part of your agenda is to give us out-of-date information and try to sell us on the next drug, pill, or surgery that's going to correct issues with people being fucking lazy and eating like shit. Thank you. Yep. Yeah, boy, I tell you. I tell you, honest to God, guys, all you got to do is read a few things, go on the internet and read a few articles that came out more recently, or try to find some shit on social media. And you could talk about that shit all day long. It's the stupidest shit I've ever seen in my life. And we are just inundated with it day in and day out. And not only in our normal lives, but within our gym lives, our fitness lives. Oh my God, it even gets better. And that stuff resonates with us probably harder than any of the other stuff, because we find it hard to believe that people haven't already figured this shit out. Yes, eating good means you're going to live a healthier lifestyle. Eating good generally means you're not going to gain a lot of unneeded weight, which is going to lead to a healthier lifestyle. Working out and building muscle is not a bad thing. Working out when you're older is not a bad thing. Movement is a good thing. Staying away from processed foods is a good thing. Drinking lots of water is a good thing. Running, moving, lifting weights, doing jumping jacks, getting a smaller midsection. All good things. Yeah. Somebody pay me to write one of those studies. Please, somebody give me some money and I'll go out and write a big study for you. Oh, I digress. All these thoughts running through my head. I'm a master's athlete getting ready for a competition, but I've seemed to have hit a brick wall lately with my progress. Any suggestions? That was a question I got, by the way. And I want to use that as a opportunity to tell you about Ken McClelland in Mike Lohman's book, Mastering Strongman, because I think that's becoming a bigger and bigger issue out there with older competitors. And I say older, probably 35 and up, right, guys? Maybe not, maybe even younger than that, especially those of us or those who are competing in lifting sports that started at a very young age. Maybe we're doing some of those things that were wrong in the beginning, and they started maybe feeling the aches and pains and having recovery issues, things of that nature, maybe old injuries and stuff that were preventing them for bettering themselves within their sport or keeping, them within the game, I guess you can say. Because what we're seeing now more, of course, is we got masters athletes, more and more of them competing in all these different sports: bodybuilding, powerlifting, strongman, CrossFit, Highland Games, you name it. We're getting bigger and bigger masters classes, and there's a reason for that, of course. The reason is because there's more information being shared about how to train better, how to eat better and smarter, and how to build yourself an opportunity for longevity within all these sports. So that's great. Of course, we can all appreciate that. I do, because I'm a masters competitor, as a lot of my friends are out there and a lot of people that I know. It's just awesome to think that at a later age in lifting sports that we can all compete at a very high level, compete effectively, still stay strong, maintain our athleticism, and have fun doing what we all love to do for as long as we could possibly do it. We are in a very unique era with that. Moving forward, it's only going to get better. However, it's not too uncommon that you run across questions like that. I hear it all the time, as a matter of fact, because I'm in that class. Guys will come up and ask me, boy, man, I hit a brick wall. I'm just not sure what I'm doing now, or I'm a little bit lost in my program. I'm a little bit lost in my routine. I'm trying to figure out ways to overcome some of these plateaus that generally, when I was younger, I wouldn't have any problem with at all. I can identify it. I can move a couple things around, and before you know it, I was through it. But when you become a master, whenever that is, guys, and I'm going to use that term loosely because it could happen. I say master like it's an infliction. It kind of is. When you hit that wall, right, that master's wall, I'm going to call it, generally it's a wholesale change. It's not one or two things anymore. It turns into a whole new sort of methodology on the way you're doing stuff. And it's not just going to be, well, I need an extra day off here, or I need to maybe do a different exercise or that sort of thing. And what we're finding is that could happen as early as like age 30, 35. Again, depending on how long you've been abusing your body in a sport or in lifting or in abuse. That's not a bad, I'm not using that word to make it a bad thing. What I mean is training your fucking ass off, balls to the wall for 15 years in any given lifting sport or in the gym. And you're finding yourself naturally dealing with some maybe nagging injuries or aches and pains because you didn't have the information a generation ago that could have maybe saved a lot of what you're feeling today. So maybe that master's class is hitting you a bit sooner than it would normally, although it's always going to get there eventually. So when I got that question, which I appreciate, maybe maybe one of the better people to answer that, it doesn't come down to any one particular thing. As a master's competitor, you have to retool your whole idea behind training, maintenance, and recovery. You have to. It's not one thing. It's not one idea that I can give you that's going to make it better. Certainly it'll make it better, but it's not going to change that dramatically. What you have to do as a master's competitor, first thing, is to realize you can no longer recover like you used to. You have to stay away from that idea. You won't. I get it. You can take magnesium. You can get more sleep. You can drink more water. All that stuff's going to help. And all the other supplements you can take, and glutamine and creatine, and making sure that you're eating whole foods and all these other intangibles. Yes, they all are going to work. But despite that, it's not going to get you back to where you used to be. You're a master's competitor now, which means you're going to have to wholesale change it and understand that you may only be able to train hard every fourth workout now, or maybe every other workout, high-low, or maybe 2 workouts a week are maybe a bit more taxing on the CNS, and the other 2 might be hypertrophy. And you need to have a bigger rotation in your training program. And then on top of that, you got to add all that other stuff too to help your body recover, so you're able to get to that next routine and allow you to train it at whatever capacity that day calls for. So that's the first thing I would tell you to do, is be prepared to make a wholesale change. As a matter of fact, just get it in your head. That's what needs to be done, and do it. And I'm going to tell you this, if you're 35 and above, I promise you that's what's going on. Then, of course, some things come down to movement and your body's ability to perform those movements the same way you used to. And I give you an example. I've had 15 years off, or no, I'm not 15 years off. That's an exaggeration. You guys have known about my hip surgery, and I had my hip replacement done last year. Prior to that, it was several years, probably closer to 10 years, that I didn't squat and I didn't deadlift. So as I got my hip recovered, and as I got back on under a bar and on top of a bar and tried to get my mobility back to perform these lifts, I was making these newbie gains at first that were as new as they were the day I stepped into the gym, 30 some years ago or 30 years ago. So it was awesome. But the problem is with those type of gains for me was I didn't really know if I was performing the exercise correctly, because a lot of times when you're making newbie gains, it doesn't even matter how you're doing it. If you guys remember, those of you who can remember that, or those of you going through it right now, it doesn't matter how you get there, or it has nothing to do with it. Newbie gains are newbie gains. I can bench press like an idiot. I can squat like an idiot. I can do the movement incorrectly. I can overtrain it, undertrain it. It doesn't matter. As long as I'm in the gym pushing weight, I'm going to make newbie gains. And that's a great place to be in your life. A lot of us only experience that once. I, however, have gotten to experience that twice, because I had 10 years off of squatting and deadlifting, essentially 10 years off of any real lower body training. So I had a lot of atrophy that went on. And of course, my body composition's changed over the years, and I kept training my upper body. So I had a lot of those subtle masters changes take place as well. So what had happened was I'm getting back over the bar and deadlifting in particular, and I'm making all these newbie gains again, 315 for 10 and 405 for 10 and, 495 for a few, then 505 for a few, or 525 and whatever. Just these 50, 60 pound jumps were happening frequently. Every couple weeks I was moving up in weight. So eventually I've gotten up to, 6.5, 700 pound deadlift for a couple. And all of a sudden I hit this brick wall. This happened like 6 weeks ago. The newbie gains went away. They weren't around anymore. And I was forced to kind of take a step back and ask myself, what type of plateau was I hitting? Was it a food thing? Was it a training thing? Was it an overtraining thing? And what I realized was it was the idea that now I'm a master. And it was all those things I had to kind of retool a bit, including form. And I think it's often overlooked. I get it. There's the right and wrong way to do everything out there, but there's a little bit of a gray area on all sides of that. What I mean is kind of your biomechanics and the way your body works. 10 years ago, when I pulled a deadlift, I had the bar really tight to my shins. And the way that I was able to sit back into that movement and position my center point or my shoulders over top of the bar was much, much easier. And it doesn't take a lot to throw that off. So ultimately what happened was, as I was making these newbie gains, being tilted over the bar, so my center of gravity was way off. So ultimately, as I got stronger and stronger with my newbie gains, the lack of form became more imposing on me, to the point where I hit this brick wall. And I couldn't see it myself, guys. I'm training by myself, right? So this is where it comes, having a good lifting partner or somebody to take a look at your form, whether it's a coach or not. If you had a coach, you probably wouldn't have had this problem that I had. So ultimately, I had Robbie, as a matter of fact, was in the gym with me one day. And I'm doing deadlifts with him. I said, man, I just hit a brick wall. I can't get over it. And he saw me as I got heavier in weight. As he was taking a closer look at it, he realized that I was over the bar. So I had to reposition myself and try to sit back with my shoulders over the bar and become more centered on it. Well, that wasn't easy to do, because I was trying to do that with the bar close to my shins. I hope I'm not boring you guys out there. This is pretty important to note, because what had happened is not only was my positioning wrong, but mechanically my hips weren't working the way they used to. I was naturally sitting in a higher position when I was all the way back than I was when I was deadlifting 10 years ago. So essentially what it did then, and not only that, my upper body is much bigger than it was. So I'm no matter how close and how far I sat back, I should say how far I sat back into that deadlift, I couldn't get myself comfortably positioned or centered on that bar. And I was taking a lot of my inertia away, my strength away from me, my pent up strength to be able to lift that bar off the ground. So ultimately, what had happened was, and many of you are out there already talking to the radio right now, saying, "Yeah, we know what happened. You had to move the bar away from your shins." So instead of me creating my own center point, I had to allow the bar to kind of compensate that difference for me. So all those 20 years that I deadlifted with the bar in close to my shins, now I have to move the bar out about 2.5, 3 inches in front of my shins to create the same center of gravity. Get what I'm saying, guys? So what ultimately I'm getting at out there is this didn't come as a result of some injury. I get it. I had a hip replacement. The hip is back to normal. My mobility is back to normal. But ultimately, just basic wear and tear on the body as a masters competitor, composition changes, things that are naturally occurring. You have to naturally adjust for those as well. And I think there are some coaches out there that have been in the game long enough that are shaking their heads right now going, yeah, of course. Of course. We know this. This is true. A lot of guys do know this out there. But for those of you out there, like the guy that wrote me that question, you have to assess everything. When you're a masters competitor now, you can't just sit back and think it's going to be one or two things that's going to make all the change or all the difference in the way you're making or the way you're performing in competition or the way you're performing these lifts. So that roundabout way of me answering that question, you got to retool. It's time to retool. The sooner you do that as a master and quit denying the fact that you have to just change a little thing here or a little thing there, the better off you're going to be. And you're going to have a lot more fun competing and a lot more fun in the gym with the remaining years you have left in competition and training. So just remember that. It's just time to retool. Now, I haven't had a chance to read, getting back to it, Mike Lohman and Ken McClelland's book, Mastering Strongman, yet. I would be shocked if that's not in there somehow in some roundabout way. Matter of fact, I kind of know it is. I've listened to him talk, and I can't wait to get this book for those of you out there. And I'm going to have Ken on the show, as a matter of fact. Maybe that's a little segue to that. Ken is going to come on the show to share that book with me, and I'm just going to wait for my copy to get here. Once I get my copy, I'm going to read the book. I want to make sure that I'm well versed in their methodology and mastering strongman, so we can have a really good conversation over this book and share a lot of the intangibles with you guys out there that are either a master's competitor, training in strongman, powerlifting, or other, because I think this would be applicable across the board for many of us. And I'm sure Ken and Mike would agree with me. And or you're quickly approaching the day that someday very soon you're going to be in that class of athlete that's going to require you to make some wholesale changes in your training and lifestyle. And I love the fact that now we have this information available to us out there that's going to lend to older competitors, whether that's 35 and above in bodybuilding or 40 above in strongman and powerlifting, allow us to compete, not only compete, but compete at a high level for many, many more years in our lives. So thank you to all that information. Thank you to Ken and Mike, of course, coming out with this book. And I can't wait to read it. And thank you to my master's question that I got that allowed me to talk about all that stuff. So yeah, really, really cool. I appreciate that. I got another question too. I know bench pressing is not a true mark of someone's strength, but what would it be? What would be a good bench press for a guy, in your opinion, about 205 pounds at 26 years old? You know, I love that question. I love it because people have got afraid of asking that question over the years now. It's almost like it's stupid. They don't want to say, what do you bench press anymore? And I can tell you right now, when I was younger, I ran into that question all the time because that was the question that anybody would ask you, whether they were in the gym or not, is what do you bench press? And listen, I don't think anybody that bench press out there had a problem answering that question. Most guys would embellish it a bit, but nonetheless, they had fun answering that question. And for those of us that rep bench, we would say, well, I don't really max anymore, but I rep, 300 for 20 or whatever it may be. So you know what? to answer your question, my friend, that is a very relevant question to ask, and I appreciate it. And I don't see anything wrong with that because it deserves an answer too. And I think any strength guy will tell you, and I'm not saying you're a power lifter or you're a strongman. And most strongmen can't bench, by the way. Most strongmen are very shitty at bench pressing because they don't need to bench press in the sport. However, you ask the right strongman here. I am still a big bench presser. I still bench press all the time. It's a fun movement that I'll never take out of my training. I would say for a guy 205 pounds at 26 years old, I'd say 300 pounds would be a great bench press for you. I think 300 pounds would be the goal that you should set for yourself. I would say 225 or your body weight times 10 is a really good goal for a bench press. I think we can all agree with that. I think wherever your body weight's at, you should be able to bench press it 10 times. I can guarantee you this. If you are 205 pounds and you're 26 years old, or any age for that matter, and you can bench press your body weight 10 times and max press 100 pounds over your body weight, you are in 5% or less of the world. There's not many guys on the planet, percentage-wise, that can do that. Now, I know it seems on social media because we all hang out in the lifestyle of the gym world, that doesn't seem like a very big number when we're comparing ourselves to those people. But I can tell you right now, on a global level, on a national level, state or local, you are in the top 5% or better of the strength community at large. And that being just normal people in general, people and how strong they are. So be proud of that. So 10, your body weight by 10, add 100 pounds to your total body, I think are really good benchmarks for setting for yourself when it comes to maybe some goals. That's where you want to be. And I think we can all appreciate those numbers. When we hit our body weight for 10 that very first time was a big moment. Another big moment for a lot of guys is that 315 mark. Well, why is that? Well, for a lot of us that hit it, if you remember, generally we weighed about 200 pounds, give or take a few pounds. So about 100 pounds over body weight. That was a really big mark for a lot of us, 315. The next big mark after that, you could argue, some guys will say it's 365. I don't at all. I say it's 405. Adding wheels to the bars, every one of your benchmarks, right? 225, 315, 405, 495. If you can hit a 495 raw bench as a guy out there, girl, I mean, that would even be more impressive. But as a guy out there, you, my friend, are in the top 1% of 1% of the entire world at bench pressing. That is a big, big number. So, set your sights high on bench press. If you do it correctly and you have fun doing it like I have over the years, you can get good at it despite what the naysayers say. It doesn't injure you all the time. It doesn't injure you at all. If you're lifting properly, you're going to be just fine. And there's nothing wrong with bench pressing. And there's nothing wrong with asking, how much do you bench press? I think we all love that question. And most of us that know how to bench press do not mind answering it one bit. Now you'll get guys that'll go, well, what does that matter? I can tell you right now, those guys can't bench for shit. So turn around and ask them what they can deadlift. Maybe that's better. Most strong men would appreciate that anyhow. What do you deadlift? Not what do you bench? Or what do you log press? But anyhow, I like that question. That was a good question. We need to bring back that question. As a matter of fact, we should all ask somebody that 3 times this week. 3 different people. What do you bench press? See what you get out of it. But 10 times your body weight, 300-pound bench press, or 100 pounds above your body weight would be 2 really good sites to set yourself on when it comes to your strength of your bench press. All right. Did I get another one? Oh, yeah, I did. I got one more, and I guess this is kind of more of a Q&A type episode here, and I'll get into one last thing towards the end of it too. I got one that said, I'm not a good high puller. Let me try to make sense of this. I wrote down my chicken scratch. I'm not a good high puller. I'm stronger. I'm almost stronger on pulling from the floor than I am for high pulling. I saw you pull 900 in your video at 18 inches. Are there any tricks to becoming a better at high pulling? And so you guys understand that question, right? I just butchered it. I was trying to read my own writing. I'm not a good high puller. I'm about as strong at high pulling as I am at low pulling. I saw a video of you high pulling 900 pounds at 18 inches. Are there any tricks to make myself a better high puller? Yeah. Well, the answer is yes. Of course, it's called training high pulling. You're not going to get better at high pulling, low pulling. It just doesn't work like that. Yeah, there's a little bit of there's a little bit of crossover there. The difference is when you're low pulling with a lot more of your posterior chain, basically from your heels all the way up to the top of your ass, right? I mean, we'll start right there. We're going to take your back out of it entirely for now because it's relevant to the conversation I'm having. When you're low pulling, you can use your calves and your legs and your hamstrings and your glutes and your hips. All these muscles come into play more effectively in low pulling. And in many cases, you're not going to utilize any of those muscles when you're high pulling. So you're starting the momentum of the bar off the ground in low pulling at a lot of inertia, right? There's a lot of energy there that's pulling that bar fast off the ground, or what we would call fast. We don't perceive it as that. It moves very slow for the most of us. I get that. But that energy from that lower posterior chain is what's making you a good low puller. Now you transition, of course, into the low back QL, rhomboids, traps, all that stuff as that bar comes off the floor, and you get a lot of that muscle working too. But the difference is when you're high pulling, you're removing much of the lower extremity out of that lift. At best, you're getting a little bit of high glute, QL, and then, of course, you're getting a lot of rhomboid and trap and lat into that movement. So you're removing half your body, essentially, if I could say that for you coaches out there. You know what I'm trying to say, so don't beat me up too bad. You're essentially removing half your body. So by doing that, you're able to kind of force a bit more onto the bar. And I'm a good high puller because remember, I told you guys earlier, I didn't train deadlift for years and years and years. So I had no choice but to high pull because my hip didn't allow me to low pull. So by nature of that, I got a really strong back, rhomboids, traps, lats, lower back QL, that kind of thing, because you have to actually train that movement. And there's a bit of a trick to it as well. The way you center yourself above the bar. I talked about that earlier in the podcast. That becomes very, very important on a high pull because a lot of times when you're high pulling, you're not starting. You think it would be easier because you're starting at a higher point. Well, the bar's further off the ground. Why wouldn't it be easier to pull it? Well, you're trying to start all that force into the bar in a very awkward position with your back. So you're getting no momentum through your legs and lower posterior chain. That's part of it. Then the other part of it is how you center yourself on that bar. Because you got to remember, as that bar tracks up your legs from the ground, your body naturally will keep itself centered over that bar. So if you're a high puller, a lot of times you're coming into that bar kind of already hanging over top of the bar. You don't want that. So you still have to force yourself to sit back into that position on that bar that keeps yourself centered on it. So as a high puller, naturally then, if you're not used to high pulling and you're doing some of those intangibles wrong, like being over the bar, not being centered on the bar, or not knowing how to start that weight just with using the inertia created by your back and your muscles in that upper posterior, you're going to have a real difficult time doing it. I know a lot of guys who high pull about as much as they low pull because they simply don't train high pulling. Many of the guys out there that are really good at high pulling are going to be strongmen, of course, because strongmen, we deal with different heights of the bar for competition. 13, 18 inches isn't uncommon. Silver dollar 18, 13-inch axle, those type of things. So we train all levels of that. However, I encourage everybody out there to train at all positions of that bar as well, even if you're an everyday lifter or a guy that just wants to get big and thick. I ran into a guy today that doesn't low pull. He only high pulls for his back thickness. And I don't disagree with that. You can figure out a way to do it. If low pulling isn't your thing, don't exclude pulling across the board. Just get that bar up to a height that allows you to work on some of those back muscles instead, and then focus on your other leg exercises for the different components of your leg, both front and back. And you can make up the difference there and get good, big, strong legs, particularly hamstrings and glutes, without actually deadlifting. We know this. But yeah, don't take pulling out of your routine entirely. Just high pull, and or if you're trying to become a better high puller, practice high pulling and practice all points of pulling. A lot of big deadlifters now will even do that in their lift, in their programming. Their coaches will throw a lot of variant height into their programming, which years ago, by the way, when I was powerlifting, there wasn't a lot of that. Everything was from the floor with bands, either reverse bands or chains or something, but all all movement started from the floor. Now, of course, things have gotten a little more evolved, and even really good deadlifters out there or powerlifting coaches now put that in their programming at these pulls at different heights, which forces you to engage different muscles immediately, as opposed to more of that domino effects from floor, all the way up to lockout. If you guys follow what I'm saying out there. So yeah, I love that question too. What does it take to become a better high puller? I'm naturally a good high puller. I always have been, but there's little tricks to that as well, like hitching the bar, throwing your knees under the bar. And that's not easy to do. A lot of guys will say, oh, well, you can hitch when you high pull. And that is true. You do hitch. But if you don't know how to hitch, hitching's very difficult. It actually throws it kind of all off, kind of like trying to make that transition to the hitch. Because a lot of guys, when they're high pulling, the bar isn't above their kneecaps yet. Generally, it's at their kneecap or below, unless you're a really short guy. Then you have a really advantageous high pull. There's no doubt about it. But if you're a bit taller, 5'10" or taller, like me, you're going to have the bar either at your knee or below your knee. So there is a moment of transition that when the bar is pulling, that you want to get your knees underneath the bar, but don't make it deliberate. Is what I mean is you don't want to stop the bar to actually slide the knee under the bar. You want to keep that bar moving. I get it. It's moving like grass is growing, but you want to try to transition your knees quickly without making it a step of its own. It's becoming a part of the lift itself. So hitching is very difficult. There's some great strong men and strong women out there that do an awesome job at hitching. If you ever watch, listen, she's actually a world record power lifter as well. So she cannot hitch in powerlifting meets. She's good at both, as Rhea Lovelace, world record holder in 3 different deadlifts. If you watch her train strongman deadlifting, which is uniquely different than powerlifting deadlifting, because they do allow the hitch, watch videos of her hitching that bar. It is flawless. It is seamless, and it is streamlined. She can hitch that bar so quick, it becomes a part of her natural movement to do that. And that's where a lot of guys and girls have to get good at hitching the bar, because it once they master it like Rhea's done, oh boy, now it's just all about the weight, baby. And you're going to put some big weight up, trust me. So you got to get good at that as well if you want to be a good high puller. There's no pure way to high pull. Like, a lot of powerlifters say, oh, I don't hitch. I'm not a strong man. I'm a pure puller. And a lot of guys will tell you that this is true. And as a matter of fact, tell you a lot of it's true, that most of the world records held today in deadlifting are done without hitching. So some would even argue the hitch doesn't make the lift any easier, may make it harder, and or doesn't really lend to too much assist. I don't know. I'm on the fence. I think if you become a good hitcher, you can put up a lot more weight. But isn't it weird that a lot of the deadlift records exceed powerlifting records, exceed strongman records where hitching is allowed? I might have to get Luke Davies on to explain that to me. He probably has a really good explanation for that. Record deadlift holder, and as I mentioned in other podcasts, Rihanna Lovelace's significant other. So I'm sure they've had this conversation. So anyhow, another great question. So I got 3 of those this time around, which I appreciate. So anyhow, let's move on, guys. I'm going to be able to drink of water here as I'm drying out. I'm hoping that I'm sounding all right. I'm not doing a ton of rambling today. A little more specific to the podcast, especially when I get these questions sometimes. Guys, I start to talk and I get through them, and there's that other part of your brain sometimes that does some thinking for you while you're talking. You guys know what I'm saying out there? Like you're in the middle of a conversation, you're thinking about something different. You know what I'm thinking sometimes when I'm doing this podcast for you guys is I'm saying something about the topic that I'm talking about. In the back of my mind, I'm going, God damn, I hope this makes sense. I don't have a clue sometimes. So bear with me, you guys. Entertaining nonetheless, I promise. At least I hope. I don't know everything, but a lot of my stuff, like I told you guys, is more anecdotal. Bro science kind of stuff, just stuff that I kind of pick up, and I try to explain to you in my way of understanding it, that I've kind of like evaluated and deciphered through my own years of lifting and training, and getting a lot of help from friends, of course, too. Smart people like Ben and Dom Kuza and these other people that are coaches and trainers out there in all modalities of lifting, bodybuilding, powerlifting, strongman. Take all that information, throw it in with mine, mix it around like a good martini, pour the drink, and this is what I got. That's my version of it, kind of. I think we can all relate to that. I think we all have our own way of kind of doing things and explaining things. But ultimately, when you get into the science of all this lifting, yeah, there's right and wrong ways to every bit of it with very little variation. Very little. There's a little gray area in some of it. I think that bar positioning that I talked about in deadlifting to you guys, a lot of my higher up coaching friends would agree with me there that that's a necessary part of it, making an adjustment as you lose some of your mobility as you get older. At least I'm saying that again because I want them to hear this, because I know they won't hesitate to call me to tell me otherwise. All right, let's talk about something else. Something I cannot wait for. This is getting crazy. I just spoke to him earlier today. This will kind of be a little bit of a pre-show to War of the North. This is going to be a lot of fun, guys. I talked to George earlier today. So for you Great Lakes people out there that are going to be attending War of the North, here's your Fit, Jacked, and Stacked update. I talked to George today. He is hard at work again, adding another layer of effect to this show. When we talk about the pageantry of this show, I cannot emphasize it enough that this is going to be a groundbreaking show for strongman promoting globally. Nobody's ever done this before. Mind you, this is at a smaller scale. So this CrossFit facility is going to allow 60 competitors. I say smaller, but compared to what George normally does, compared to most other shows out there, this is a normal size show, 60 guys. It's in a CrossFit facility that's probably what 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 square foot facility, wide open space. It's going to be, of course, sub-zero weather. There's no other place to do it. But what George has done with the pageantry of this show is going to be groundbreaking for the rest of the strongman community when it comes to the way they might think about doing their promotions. He built a set for this show, top to bottom, all the way around this facility that's medieval. It's mid-fucking evil, guys. It's badass. This is a part of what the arena is that you're going to compete in. Surrounding you is going to be this set to make you feel like you're back a few hundred years during medieval times having a war. He's got fog machines. He's got a lighting system that when I called him, he sent me a video of it. It's synchronized lighting system. So it's the hold back nothing. Spare no expense. This is all computerized. The lighting system is in here to create this battle effect. His prizes, of course, are these actual long swords. I don't mean the flimsy kind. I mean the shit you could probably go to war with, which are awesome. Another layer to this. He built a throne. Remember the part last week I told you I couldn't unveil? I'm unveiling it for you. I didn't get permission from him. I don't care at this point. I'm just going to tell you. I'm so excited. He built a throne that would fit Brian Shaw on it. It's huge. It's awesome. So not only are you going to compete at the War of the North, but if you win the war in your weight class, you're going to be given your sword of conquering sword, the prize, on this throne, which is awesome. If you guys can imagine the Game of Thrones, the throne, right? On top of that, this is a 21 and older show. At night at 6:00, he plans on finishing the show in about a 3-hour time slot, which is about what we can all appreciate out there, right? And this 3-hour time slot, during that time, there's going to be drinks served. That's right. There's a bar that he brought in, a nonprofit, is going to be mixing drinks and serving keg beer. For you competitors, I mean, I guess sign a waiver. I don't know how that works. I will not be drinking any beer during a strongman competition. I can assure you that, as I don't think anybody will be, unless it's the last event. And, I got nothing to lose other than just maybe, I don't know what the last event is, sled drag or something. No, I won't even do that. What am I saying? Talk myself off the ledge. I'll wait till 9:00 and have a bunch of beers after that. This isn't Highland Games. So yeah, he's got an open bar there. It's going to be drinks, got a couple specialty drinks that they're serving up that are going to be sort of themed for the show, if you will. They're going to have beer there as well. I'm sure he's going to have food there. George, if you don't have food there, get somebody with food there. Because what George is going to do is he's keeping the show going past 9:00. It sounds like all the way up to midnight. So all the people there spectating and being a part of this show, participating in it, and volunteering in it, could all hang out for 3 hours after the show and just enjoy each other's company and celebrate the War of the North. So I think it's really cool how he's just kind of made this whole sort of this inclusive sort of event for all of us that are a part of it. And like you guys know out there, the tickets to this are restricted to 60 tickets for spectators. So you have 60 competitors, 60 tickets. And then, of course, you have maybe your 20 volunteers and a few other people. So roughly a nice, intimate strongman party to be the finishing sort of the conclusion of the War of the North. So look forward to this. I think everybody should be more excited about this show that are having the opportunity to be up there to participate in it than any other show they've ever been a part of. From the point of view that what you're going to be a part of up there, nobody has ever got a chance to be a part of before, because again, George is putting together a groundbreaking experience, something new for all of us to be a part of. And I hope a lot of promoters tune into this. We're going to be taking some cameras up there. I'm going to be competing. Duante will be there and some other people on Gym Life's behalf to actually get a lot of footage of this so we could share it with the rest of the world. But in any case, I know this is going to set a new precedent with some new fun ideas coming by way of strongman promoting. So be ready for that. It's going to be so much fun. Lighting system, pageantry of the actual stage or the props itself. Obviously, the nonprofit coming in to make this a 21 and older event that we can all enjoy. And then, of course, each other's company and just being in the scene up there is going to be a great time. So shout out to you, George Bullard, the Great Lakes Strongest Man and the War of the North. We're going to have a great time up there in the next couple weeks. That is February 18th. I got that right, George? February 18th? It is. I'm joking. George said, get my fucking date right. I did. It's February 18th. And I don't know if I was supposed to tell you about the drinking or not. I guess the cat's out of the bag there. Sorry, George. That slipped. And I'm not going to edit this either. It's just high tide. Everybody knew what the hell you had going on up there because I want to get everybody excited about this show. So I think that is probably our show today. It's a good way to end it. Can't wait to get up there and do that. And of course, I'll have some great stuff coming back for you guys. On another note, I'm hoping that a lot of you guys will get on and subscribe to our YouTube page. Even if you listen to this on Spotify or these other platforms, I would appreciate that. Kind of gives me a better idea, too, how many people we have listening to these shows, or this show in particular. Like I said, we're doing really well. I think we're up to 800 and something last I checked. That means nothing more to me than being able to reach out to maybe some sponsors or some people to get them involved in the show. And as you guys know, I give all that back to you guys as well, or figure out ways to make you involved in that if we can get other people on board. And these companies, if they know we've got some listenership out there, some supporters, they're more willing to participate with us. So I appreciate that. So if you guys would subscribe to our YouTube page, that would be awesome. And get in the habit of commenting too. Let me know what you think about the show. And I appreciate all the feedback for the Q&As that I put out there asking for questions. Getting 3 really good ones this time around. More of that would be great too. Of course, I know a lot of you don't want to get my opinion on much. I'll just report the news to some degree and give you my take on what that news is all about and some big events, people, places, and things and all that stuff. So get ready for a big 2023. Appreciate everybody out there listening today. Stay tuned. Stay strong.